So, in chapter X squared plus Y squared of How to Monetize Your YouTube Videos, it says that in order to gain viral popularity, one must make a YouTube video on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hi guys, and welcome to my video on military propaganda in the Marv. Nope! That's already been done already. Let me try again. And now we're here to discuss the reason Marvel movies look bland and colory. No, that's not gonna work. Alright, let's go on a deep dive on Thanos. Nope, why did I even think that would work? Fine. We're going daddy issues in Thor Ragnarok. Are you happy? Taika Hawaiian shirt Watiti. Thor Ragnarok is the third movie in the Thor franchise, and that's about as much as it has in common with the first two movies. Because in the hands of Taika Waititi, Ragnarok essentially rebooted the Thor franchise from irrelevancy. Not only did it position Thor excellently for both Infinity War and Endgame, but it made us feel strong things for its characters. Other than its excellent portrayal of colonialism and why we should tear down empires built on the back of slavery and war, what really got to me about Thor Ragnarok was its daddy issues.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
Because for a movie that's meant to be a lighthearted comedy, it sure does pack a punch with the emotional stakes of the film, especially when you look at how the arcs of the three siblings parallel each other perfectly. Hela, Thor, and Loki are each going through the gambit of emotions as they deal with their father's existence and passing. They're all foils of each other, and they each symbolize different ways emotional abuse affects the mental stability of an individual. I'm fine. As compared to some implications in the previous Thor films, this one goes out of its way to prove nurture over nature. Because Odin's not a very good father. And yeah, that left some issues that needed to be dealt with therapy. But that doesn't exist in Marvel, so...
Go to therapy, kids!
Before discussing the three siblings, I think it's important to contextualize Thor. Because while it will be easier to deep dive into their dynamics without factoring in godliness, that might take away the nuance behind the movie. So we formally begin this essay with Odin. Odin Borson, the Norse god of war and wisdom, is first and foremost the king of Asgard. He conquered the 9 realms of Yggdrasil and stood as its powerful yet peaceful leader up until his disappearance at the end of Thor: The Dark World. Secondly, he is the father of Thor, Loki, and Hela. Secondly, and I want to really emphasize that word. Secondly, in all 3 movies featuring Odin, he serves as the king of Asgard above any and all things. That includes fatherhood. Odin is willing to sacrifice the sanity and well-being of his children for the rest of his people. If any of the 3 are perceived as a threat to Asgard, he either banishes them, like Hela, lies to them, like Loki, or pushes them to their breaking point, like Thor. This complicates his relationship to his family. Though we try to spin Odin into a villain, we have to acknowledge his position of power and how that influences his own decisions on fatherhood. Well, yes, he is a trashbag dad who is responsible for the mental deterioration of his children. He is also accountable for his people. Those actions may or may not be beneficial to the children. But in his mind, those are actions justifiable when looking at the greater good of Asgard. He is the father of all, except to his children. TV tropes! This makes the abuse consequential but not intentional. But that doesn't make him a bad person. He's just a bad father. After using the first 15 minutes of Thor Ragnarok to retcon the 2 previous movies, we are immediately whiplashed into meeting the newest MCU Big Bad for the movie, by way of the leather-clad Cate Blanchett. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Hela, Odin's other daughter. Here is a quick rundown of things you need to know about Hela. She is the goddess of hell. She was portrayed by Cate Blanchett. Oh, I said that already. Huh. And she was abandoned by Odin. No explanation needed. We're done, everybody. Thank you for watching my video. Seriously though, As in your face as the metaphor for abuse is in this particular relationship, I find that the movie makes a salient point about a person growing up isolated from love and affection. I mean, once you compare Hela's own arc to Loki, another MCU villain who has also been neglected by Odin, you'll find that the text underscores the value of personal connections. The fact is, being deprived of love from a father, or a family even, can make a person spiral into a cycle of self-destruction and hate. Unlike Loki, who held on to sanity and a sense of self through the unwavering effort of both Frigga and Thor, Hela had no one but Odin in her life. She built her entire identity around Odin's thirst for power during the conquest of the Nine Realms, and was erased from history because of it. She was groomed to be a tool of colonization, up until the point Odin could not use her to his benefit. And this is the most tragic part of Hela, that she walked hand in hand with her father when he needed her for conquest, and then was sent into forced isolation because of him. I'm not saying that she didn't deserve any form of punishment for her bloodlust. However, forced isolation, or in mortal terms, solitary confinement, has very severe psychological consequences which only feed into a person's desire for revenge, destruction, and annihilation. There is no love in Hela's life. And that, my friends, is the pain carried by Hela. Ah, Loki, my sweet, innocent, not evil child. You spent the entire Thor Ragnarok being the trickster god you were meant to be, and you failed each time to succeed. You are without a doubt the lamest you've ever been in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. But in this movie, Ragnarok does what other movies could not. You, my friend, are finally redeemed. Loki is probably the most likable villain in the entire MCU, and that can be attributed to two reasons. Number one, he is played by the Tom Hiddleston, and number two, he has a sympathetic and painful backstory which we can all get behind, and the personality to emphasize that. After going through 2 Thor movies and 1 Avengers film prior to Ragnarok, you'd think the audience would have grown tired of Loki's growing angst with his father and Asgard. Yet Taika Hawaiian shirt Watiti manages to break my heart with a single frame. This one. This look. This one silent glance to Odin is the only frame in the movie where Loki is not being hilarious or mischievous or sexy. The look he has on his face is that look of inner turmoil and confusion. Because hating your abuser does not mean not caring for them, especially if they shaped so much of your worldview and childhood. You see, Odin may have never loved Loki. I'm not trying to speak for those who are adopted, but I can at least assume that Odin's mixed intentions with Loki's heritage may have been a burning question for our god of mischief. Because if you look at Odin's track record as a king, it wouldn't be hard to make the assumption that the adoption was for purely selfish reasons. Being a spawn of the enemy, Odin could have used Loki as leverage against the frost giants. Keeping him as his son would be keeping frost giants at bay, and therefore would keep Asgard safe from harm. So, how do you talk to a man whose approval you sought for many years? And more importantly, how do you do it seconds before their death, and in front of a brother who cared for the both of you? Spoiler alert, you don't talk. Loki let the moment pass, and he went back to self-destructive habits because it's basically routine for him. The lingering effects of abuse does not go away when the abuser does. It only festers into something worse until otherwise actively tackled and dealt with. And that's where Thor comes in. Thor is Loki's saving grace. Without him, redemption would have been harder for Loki. Because while Thor is not the sole reason for Loki's character change, he was very much the guiding force and catalyst for it. His constant appreciation of Loki, as well as his belief that there is some dollop of goodness inside of him, helps keep Loki planted firmly on the ground despite the inclination to put his interests first always. It is in Loki that we get this. You can develop destructive habits from abuse and neglect, but that does not mean you can't outgrow them. In Ragnarok, Loki takes a few steps back and finally goes, maybe, just maybe, it's time for a change. And then he stops being a loser. The relationship of Thor and Odin is a very complicated one. It is the outlier among the siblings, and by that I mean it's a father-son relationship that was beneficial to the son. However, we cannot deny that it is also corrupted by the expectations of a strong monarchy. So before Thor was a son to Odin, he was Odin's successor. And given that he was Odin's successor, Thor experienced better treatment than Hela and Loki. Odin was particularly strict with Thor, but that does not mean that Odin was abusive to him. After contextualizing Thor's struggles with his father in the MCU and Norse mythology and monarchy, you could argue that their relationship, however damaged it was one of the healthiest in the movies. This is what makes Odin such a complex father figure. While yes, he was abusive to both Hela and Loki, he wasn't to Thor. This affects Thor's memory of Odin deeply. From the first Thor movie to the last one, he begins to realize that his father is not an infallible figure, and that the 9 realms Odin conquered, as well as his relations to Loki in particular, are severely flawed and damaged by history. So this is the conundrum we're left. Was Odin ever a good father to Thor? Or was he only ever a good king to him? I don't think the MCU has addressed this, and I personally don't think it will. I think this will be something that is left floating in the universe. It is a question we'll ask, a question Thor may ask, and a question that I don't think Odin can answer even if he weren't dead. It is something that, to many people who go through similar situations, will forever be left unresolved. And that's okay. Thor has these memories of Odin, and he'll have the choice to remember him however he wants to. But he doesn't know how to. The 2 final conversations between Thor and Odin show how conflicted Thor's memory is. Thor's conversation with his father in Norway shows Odin as a father filled with regret and kindness. He is repentful, emotional, and caring. He warns Loki and Thor of Ragnarok and wishes them well before passing on. So Thor has experienced some love from his father. However, later on, the conversation Thor has with Odin in his head is a conversation between a mentee and mentor. It basically goes, "Hey, here is everything you know. Use it." Thor is then empowered by Odin, and without his hammer, manages to defeat Hela. Here is the catch though. Because of the nature of that conversation and how it is edited, the audience is never sure if it happens or not. I am more personally inclined to believe that this was Thor talking to a figure of his memory and not the spirit of Odin. So it becomes apparent that Thor saw Odin as his king first and his father second. This influences the way he remembers Odin and chooses to honor his memory. So he becomes the new Odin, but not really. Thor takes up the mantle as the king of Asgard, much like his father wanted and groomed him to be. Like Odin, he is a strong monarch and a powerful king who is widely respected by his subjects. But at the same time, Thor manages to work through the bad qualities and traits he inherited from Odin, thereby learning from the mistakes of a parent. In the final scene of Ragnarok, Thor is the one-eyed king of Asgard. He is hammerless and without a throne, but his people rally behind him. But more importantly, we see Loki, who was formerly banished and jailed by Odin, and he is by Thor's side. Because unlike Odin, Thor didn't have to choose between family and kingdom. They can both exist with him.
Hi guys!
Thank you so much for watching this video. It is actually my longest video yet, and it didn't mean to be the longest, so I have to blame the people who made this possible. Thank you so much to my cousin Kish for editing the parts on Loki and Hela, and thank you so much to my friend Brent who helped beef up Thor's part. Both of you are the MCU Thor connoisseurs of my life, so I owe this video to you guys. If you want to know where to find them, I linked their social media pages down below as well as mine. Please be sure to leave a like, comment below, and let me know what you think, and I will see you all next time. Bye!